Today we'll be doing PT 365 Polity and Constitution, which covers current affairs from May 2020 to January 2021. So let's see what topics are given. Issues related to Constitution, functioning of Parliament, state legislature and local government. Then we have center and state relations, judiciary, and then we have elections and important legislations and bills, important constitutional statutory executive bodies in news, and then important aspects of governance. Coming to the first topic, issues related to Constitution, basic structure. So recently Keshwananda Bharati passed away, so that is the reason it is important this year. So recently Keshwananda Bharati Bharti, Sri Pada Galvaru and others versus State of Kerala landmark judgment is known for basic structure. About Keshwananda Bharati case, in Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court outlined the structure of the Constitution. The case dealt with a petition against the Kerala government challenging the compulsory acquisition of his land by the government under Kerala Land Reforms Act 1963 as a violation of fundamental rights as enshrined in Article 25, 26 and 31 of the Constitution. 31 is right to property, which is later amended and removed, and now it is a legal right and not a fundamental right. So the case was heard by a 13 judge bench, so which is the largest bench of Supreme Court till date. As hearing proceeded, the scope of the case was expanded to address the following. It looked into the interpretation of Golaknath case, and then interpretation of Article 368, power of Parliament to amend the Constitution, validity of the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, Section 2(3) of 25th Constitutional Amendment Act and 29th Constitutional Amendment Act. So what are the various elements of basic structure? Sovereignty of India, individual freedoms secured to the citizens, welfare state, supremacy of the Constitution, democratic and republic form of government, secular and federal character, separation of power, unity and integrity, power of judicial review, balance between DPSPs and fundamental rights, parliamentary system, rule of law, principle of equality, free and fair election, independence of judiciary, limited power of Parliament to amend the Constitution, effective access to justice, principles underlying fundamental rights, powers of Supreme Court under Article 32, 136, 141 and 142. Powers of High Court under Article 226 and 227. So how did this doctrine evolve? So 1961. This is important for mains also. You can get a question of evolution of doctrine of basic structure. So you have to remember Shankari Prasad case. Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution, including fundamental rights, under Article 368. This was said in 1961 in Shankari Prasad case and also in Sajjan Singh case. And then in 1967 in Golaknath case, remember Golaknath case, Golaknath case, Article 368 did not confer amending power to Parliament. So Golaknath case reversed this thing and said that Article 368 did not confer amending power to Parliament and fundamental rights cannot be amended by the Parliament. In 1971, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act and 25th Constitutional Amendment Act was questioned. Constitutional amendments are not considered law under Article 13, so Parliament can amend them, was what was said in 1971 Act. And 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, Section 2 curtailed right to property with due compensation, and Section 3 precedence of DPSPs over fundamental rights, and took away the scope of judicial review for Article 39B and C. And 29th Constitutional Amendment Act added two land reform legislations to 9th schedule. 9th schedule is something which cannot be touched by judiciary for judicial review till then. 1973 we have Keshwananda Bharti case, and after that whatever was said in this case has remained constant, and it was followed always. So the line of thought was maintained and strengthened in the subsequent judgments like Minerva Mills case, S.R. Bommai case, and I.R. Coelho case. So these cases must be remembered. Then we have outcomes of Keshwananda Bharti case. It upheld the validity of 24th Amendment. Supreme Court held that Parliament had the power to amend any or all provisions of the Constitution, including fundamental rights, with the condition that the amendment should not alter or damage or destroy the essential features or fundamental principles of the Constitution. So these features or fundamental principles are called as basic structure. They corrected the judgment of Golaknath case, which held that Article 368 contained both the power and procedure for amending the Constitution, and that amending powers and legislative powers of Parliament were different. It held that amending power and legislative powers of Parliament were different, and in the Constitution we have procedure for amending the Constitution, and it is under Article 368. Other judgments. Supreme Court held that 25th and 29th Amendments, except for parts that curtailed its power of judicial review, are also asserted that the preamble is a part of Constitution and hence amendable. So, result of or outcome of Keshwananda Bharti cases: basic structure doctrine, amending power and legislative powers of Parliament are different, were different, and then we have preamble is a part of the Constitution, and it upheld 25th, 29th and 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, except the ones which curtailed judicial review. Next we have impeachment of president, and that to US President Donald Trump was impeached twice, so that is the reason it is in news. Difference between impeaching Indian president and US president, difference between both of them. Ground for impeachment is violation of Constitution under Article 61. Violating Constitution and violation of Constitution under Article 61, and nowhere it is mentioned what does violation of Constitution means. And in USA it is treason, bribery or any other higher crime. Who can initiate this impeachment in India? It is either House of the Parliament, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha can start or initiate. In US it is only lower house. So stage 1, what is the process? 1/4 of the members sign from one house, and then 14 days notice is given to the president, and 2/3 of membership of total membership of both the houses pass this. And then stage 2 we have second house acting as investigating agency, and it also passes it with same majority, that is 2/3 of total membership of the house. So one house initiates it by 1/4 members signing charges, and then president is informed, he is given a notice, and then two-third of members, total membership of house vote for it, and then second house, where it is not initiated, the second house will act as investigating house, and the same is passed, and then the president is impeached. Whereas in US it is passed by a simple majority to start the trail, and then Senate, the upper house, acts like a court because it was started in lower house. The upper house acts like a investigating house, so it acts like a court, and then 2/3 of Senate, only upper house ka votes are taken, and then it is passed, and then he is impeached. Then we have pardoning power of governor. Why was it in news? Because the sentence of A.G. Perarivalan, he is convicted of Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, and his remission of sentence is before Tamil Nadu governor for over 2 years. So that is the reason it is in news. What is the difference between president and governor's pardoning power? President. Article 72 empowers the president to grant pardons to persons who have been tried and convicted of any offence in all cases where the punishment or sentence is for an offence against union law, or is by a court martial or a military court, or is a death sentence. So compared to governor, we have to remember this article 72, article 161, article 72, article 161, and then the pardoning power of governor differs from that of president in the following ways. So president can pardon martial military courts, while governor cannot. President can pardon death sentence while governor cannot. Even if the state law prescribes death sentence, the power to grant pardon lies with the president and not with the governor. So this they can use to confuse anyone in the prelims exam. So even if state passes the death sentence, only president can pardon and not the governor. Pardoning power of the president includes the following. So he can pardon or commutation, remission, respite, and reprieve. It removes both the sentence and conviction, and completely absolves the convict from all the sentences, punishments, and disqualifications. So pardoning is like totally removing, and he's that convict is a free bird. He has no punishment on him. Commutation is substituting one form with a lighter form. For example, a death sentence with a lifelong jail term, lifelong imprisonment, or lifelong imprisonment is replaced by a 10-year imprisonment or something like that. Commutation is substituting one form of punishment for a lighter form, with a lighter form. Remission is reducing the period of sentence without changing its character. Okay, this is totally substituting one form to lighter form. For example, death to lifelong imprisonment, or from lifelong imprisonment to some fine or something. And here remission includes lifelong imprisonment to a 10-year imprisonment, something like that. Period of sentence without changing its character. That is remission. Respite, awarding a lesser sentence in place of a originally awarded one due to some special facts, for example pregnancy. So respite is because of some special reason their sentence is lesser than the originally awarded one. Reprieve implies a stay on the execution of the sentence, especially that of a death, for a temporary period. Governor can also grant pardons, reprise, respites, remission of punishment, and suspend, remit, and commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offence against a state law. However, the governor can suspend, remit, and commute a death sentence. So, governor cannot pardon a death sentence, but governor can remit, commute, or suspend a death sentence. So this must be remembered. So here it is given that he cannot governor cannot pardon death sentence, but he can suspend, remit, or commute a death sentence. Comparison of pardoning power of India and US President. Recently, US President exercised his pardoning power to pardon his former National Security Advisor. US President has the constitutional right to pardon or commute sentences related to federal crimes, and it is granted without limit and cannot be restricted. However, President of India has to act on the advice of Cabinet. He has the power to grant pardons, reprise, respites, remissions of punishment. And then we have 1.4 subcategorization of OBCs. Recently, Union Cabinet approved the term extension of the Commission to examine the issue of subcategorization of OBCs. This commission is headed by Justice G. Rohini, which is very important, and it was formed in 2017. It was set up under Article 340 that empowers the President to appoint a commission to investigate conditions of backward classes. What is the background? Mandal Commission is important for it's an important committee related to OBCs. In 1990, the then Union government announced that the other backward classes would get reservation of 27% in jobs of central government and PSUs under Article 16(4). The decision was based on Mandal Commission report of 1980, which was set up in 1979 and was chaired by B.P. Mandal. The mandate of Mandal Commission was to identify socially or educationally backward classes to address caste discrimination. So his mandate was to identify these socially or educationally backward classes to address caste discrimination. The recommendation for OBC reservation in central government institutions was implemented in 1992, while the education quota came into force from 2000. It came into force in 2006. Education quota came into force from 2006, while jobs it was from 1992, and under Article 15(4), education quota came into force. To ensure that the benefits of the recommendations percolated down to the most backward communities, the creamy layer concept was invoked by the Supreme Court in the ruling called Indra Swahni case judgment in 1992. Annual income of 8 lakh or above is classified to be belonging to creamy layer among OBCs and hence not eligible for reservation. Idea of subcategorization. The first backward class commission report of 1955 has proposed subcategorization of OBCs into backward and extremely backward communities. In Mandal Commission Report 1979, a dissent note by member of in Mandal Commission Report 1979, a dissent note by member L.R. Naik proposed subcategorization in intermediate and depressed backward classes. Proposed subcategorization. So there was a dissent note by member L.R. Naik, and he proposed subcategorization into intermediate and depressed backward classes. In 2015, the National Commission on Backward Classes has proposed that OBCs be divided into three categories: extremely backward classes, more backward classes, and backward classes. Extremely backward classes as EBC Group A, facing social, educational, economic backwardness even within OBCs, constituting of Aboriginal tribes, nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes who have been carrying on their traditional occupations. More backward classes as Group B, consisting of vocational groups carrying on with their traditional occupations. And then backward classes Group C, comprising of those comparatively who have moved forward. According to NCBC, 11 states, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Puducherry, Karnataka, Haryana, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bihar, Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu have subcategorized OBC for reservations in state government owned institutions. These 11 states, remember, 11 states have subcategorized OBC for reservation in state government owned institutions. So remember, from South India we have Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka also, not Kerala. So if in options you get Kerala, you can remove it. And from North India you don't have UP, you have Haryana but not Punjab, and then you don't have Gujarat. So remember like that. You have Maharashtra, not Delhi. West Bengal, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Rajasthan. Okay, remember like that. About National Commission for Backward Classes, NCBC, until now under Article 338, it was National Commission of SC that addressed the grievances of OBCs. The present National Commission on Backward Classes Act 1993 got Article 338B of Constitution can only recommend inclusion or exclusion of caste from the OBC list, and the level of income that cuts off the creamy layer among these castes from the benefits of reservation. So at present, so in 1993 we have Article 338B. 338A is NCST and 338B is NCBC. Okay. I think this constitution, NCBC became a constitutional body recently in 2016 or 17. Okay. 123rd. Okay, it is given here. 123rd Constitutional Amendment Bill, 2nd Constitutional Amendment Act provides constitutional status to NCBC. Okay. 102 Constitutional Amendment Act, constitutional status to NCBC. That will give it the power akin or which is equal to akin to the Commission of Socially and Economically Backward Classes. The functions performed by NCSC will now get transferred to the new panel, and changes. The amendment also brings about changes in Article 342 and 366. 342 relates to central list of socially and educationally backward classes, and 366 contains the definition used in Constitution unless specifically stated otherwise. Under the Act, NCBC will comprise of 5 members appointed by President, and their tenure and conditions will be decided by President. What are the key functions which are performed by the panel? In the case of grievances related to non-implementation of reservations, economic grievances, violence, etc., people will be able to move to the Commission. The Act gives the proposed Commission the power to inquire into complaints of deprivation of rights and safeguards. It also gives it the power of a civil court trying a suit, and allows it to summon anyone, and require documents to be produced, so it acts as a civil court, and receive evidence of on an affidavit. So who are OBCs? OBC is a collective term used by the government to classify castes which are educationally and socially disadvantaged. OBCs are a vastly heterogeneous group. There are various jatis or subcastes which vary significantly in the societal and economic status. For instance, OBCs include land-owning communities in both North and South India, alongside poorer sections of the society, including poorer sections of society living on subsistence labor. What are the conditions for reservation laid down in Indra Swahni case? Reservation to socially and educationally backward class, 50% cap on vertical reservation. So Mandal Commission says about 27% reservation, and Indra Swahni case gets this concept of creamy layer, 50% cap on vertical reservation, and there should be no reservation and promotion. This is a totally separate topic related to reservation and promotion for OBCs. Creamy layer must be eliminated from the backward classes. So we are done with 1.4. 1.5 Official Languages Act. Recently, Chief Justice of India recommended amending Official Languages Act of 1963 to include more vernacular languages in governance and not just confine it to Hindi and English. So about Official Languages Act 1963, to provide for languages which may be used for the official purpose of Union, for transaction of business in Parliament, for central and state acts, and for certain purposes in High Courts. As per the Act, both Hindi and English shall be used for certain specified purposes like resolutions, rules, general orders, notifications, press communiques, administrative and other reports, licenses and tenders. Important constitutional provisions related to official languages. Part 17 of the Constitution deals with the official languages in Articles 343 to 351. Part 17 of the Constitution. Remember this. Part 17 of the Constitution deals with official languages, and they are in Article 343 to 351. Then we have 8th schedule, 22 languages. Initially it was 14, and then 92nd Amendment Act. 92nd Amendment Act, they added Bodo, Dogri, Maithili and Santali. Article 343(1) of the Constitution states that Hindi in Devanagari script shall be official language of the Union. Article 343(3) made provisions for the continuation of English even after 25th January 1965 by empowering the Parliament to make laws to that effect. So, continuation of English. Article 344(1) provides for constitution of commission by President on expiration of 5 years from the commencement of the Constitution. Article 348(1) the Constitution of India provides that all proceedings in the Supreme Court and in every High Court shall be in English until Parliament by law provides for some other language. So Supreme Court and in every High Court. Article 351 provides for the spread of Hindi language to develop it so that it may serve as a medium of expression for all the elements of the composite culture of India. Article 351 promote Hindi language. So related information. Central Institute of Indian Languages under Ministry of Education. Central Institute of Indian Languages, Ministry of Education. Don't get confused if they give Ministry of Culture or something else, Home Ministry or something like that. It is under Ministry of Education. Central Institute of Indian Language was set up in 1969 to coordinate the development of Indian languages, protect and document minor and minority and tribal languages, promote linguistic harmony by teaching 15 Indian languages to non-native learners, advises and assists central as well as state governments in matters of language, organizes a number of CIIL organizes a number of programs such as development of Indian languages, regional language centers, national testing service, etc. So remember that it is not a statutory body, it is a subordinate office of the Ministry of Education. Official Languages Commission. According to Article 344, President on expiration of 5 years from the commencement of the Constitution has to set up a commission. So he set up a commission. The commission shall consist of chairman and such other members representing different languages specified in the 8th schedule as the President may appoint, and the order shall define the procedure to be followed by the commission. It shall be the duty of the commission to make recommendations to the President as to progressive use of Hindi language for the official purposes of the Union, restriction of English language for all or any of the official purposes of the Union, language to be used for all or any of the purposes mentioned in Article 348. Article 348, Supreme Court and High Court shall be in English language. So the language to be used for all or any of the purposes mentioned in Article 348. The form of numerals to be used for any one or more specified purposes of the Union. Any other matter referred to the Commission by the President as regards the official language of the Union, and the language for communication between Union and State, between one state and another state, and their use. It also mentioned that a committee shall be constituted consisting of 30 members, of whom 12 shall be from member of the House of People and 10 shall be from Council of States. It shall be the duty of the committee to examine the recommendation of this commission. So there shall be a committee of 30 members, 20 from Lok Sabha, 10 from Rajya Sabha. They will look into this commission's report and report to the President their opinion thereon. Other important things in news: right to protest, hate speech, and then we are done with first part of the PT 365. Right to protest. Supreme Court gave a verdict on right to protest versus right to mobility. Right to protest versus right to mobility on a plea against blocking of the road in Shaheen Bagh in Delhi over Citizenship Amendment Act protests. It is Citizenship Amendment Act protests. They can confuse you by giving this and saying farmer protests. So be careful. Citizenship Amendment Act protest. Right to protest versus right to mobility against blocking of the road of Shaheen Bagh in Delhi. In another stance, Supreme Court said farmers have a constitutional right to continue with their absolutely perfect protest as long as their dissent against 3 controversial agricultural laws did not slip into violence. Okay. Article 19(1)(a), 1(b), 2 and 3. Article 19(1)(a), freedom of speech and expression, right to demonstration or picketing, no right to strike. assemble peacefully without arms is under 1B. 2 and 3, power of state to impose reasonable restrictions. Hate speech. Supreme Court in Amish Devgan versus Union of India case observed that hate speech repudiates right to equality in a polity committed to pluralism. So it says that hate speech repudiates right to equality in a polity which is committed to pluralism. Key observations of Supreme Court: hate speech versus free speech. Free speech includes right to comment, favor or criticize government policies, and hate speech means creating or spreading hatred against a targeted community or group. Hate speech has not been defined in any law in India. Remember this. However, hate speech generally incitement to hatred primarily against a group of people are dealt with IPC section 153A or 295A, etc. So we are done with 1. The second unit is about functioning of parliament or state legislature and local government. Topics are question hour, parliamentary standing committees, office of prophet, Rajya Sabha elections, and other related news, which we will be doing in the next video. Thank you.